And I want to welcome everybody. This is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health. And today I am really excited to be interviewing my guest expert, Elysabeth Alfano. And Elysabeth received degrees from Northwestern and from the Thunderbird School of Global Management. She started her career in brand marketing with, get this, Special K and Frosted Mini Wheats at Kellogg Company. She then successfully ran her own international company before exiting and focusing on investing. In 2019, she started Plant-Powered Consulting to help brands launch and succeed by solidifying branding, growing brand awareness and voice, and carving out market share. A seasoned speaker and writer, Elysabeth combines her business acumen, journalism, and on-camera skills to host the Plant-Based Business Hour and the Plant-Based Business Minute. And Elysabeth, I have to say, I've seen the Plant-Based Business Minute over and over. I actually look forward to it because you do such a phenomenal job with it. Great to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me. Gosh, that all just sounded great. I think to myself, who is that person? That person sounds great.
Yeah, it's like, let's get it going. But actually, what really intrigues me is as we move into 2021, which I can't believe we're already here, I'm looking with my own business. I've been transitioning more and more into the plant-based world, and I have more clients that are in the vegan plant-based industry. And I'm curious, what made you decide to move in that direction?
Well, the direction picked me a little bit. So being very much whole food plant-based, 95% of the time whole food plant-based, 100% vegan all the time, but 95% of the time whole food plant-based. And so I was doing all sorts of interviews with athletes and doctors and around health, but also around CEOs and what they were doing. And it just felt like there are very few people really reporting on the business aspect of plant-based and where that was going and how that was taking on, such velocity, and it was growing at such a rapid pace. And so I saw that those were the interviews that really garnered the most attention, that people wanted more of. They weren't getting enough information. And as I saw the marketplace shift, I just really wanted to put my energies there.
And where do you see things going as we move forward? Because there's been a phenomenal boom over the last few years. And it's kind of like everybody, it's kind of like when people used to say, oh, yeah, I have a gay friend. Well, now they're saying I have a vegan friend, Yes, but it's like, where do you see that all going in 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, I'll even take that. I'll riff on it a little bit more. They used to say, this is what I felt. In early 2019, they would say, oh, I have a vegan friend or, a vegan niece somewhere out there. But now they say like, oh, I try vegan every once in a while. Like now it's come to them, like it's right at their front door. I see that we are basically in the midst of a radically changing food supply system. And so that has plant-based at its core, but it's also things like not monocropping and vertical farming and more sustainable farming. I'm talking about vegetable farming. So I think you're going to see the whole food supply system change. And I'm thrilled that vegan and plant-based is taking center stage. And you have a bunch of reasons for this. So you have the consumers. Thank you, COVID, if there could be a silver lining. You have empowered consumers saying, whether they are to the left or to the right, they are saying, oh, government, you so do not have my back. And if I want to be healthy, I got to take care of this myself. This has got to come back under my own control. So you're seeing people really be wise about how they spend their dollars. And then if those people are millennials, then they also and Gen Z, then they care about the environment and animals as well. So you're really seeing the consumer focus on where you spend those dollars, but you're also seeing corporations say, okay, we're 7.6 billion people on the planet, but we're going to 9.8 billion by 2050. That stat comes from the UN. Just do that math on the back of a napkin. We're not getting more land and we're not getting more water, but we're getting 30% more people. Well, that math doesn't work. We can't have a food supply system that is so wildly inefficient with land and water when those resources are going to become extremely scarce. So you have to run a better ship. You have to be more efficient with what you've got. So there are corporations also saying, oh, I get it. So you've got companies like JBS, which now has a plant-based line called Planterra, and you have companies like Smithfield. And believe me, I'm not here to say, ooh, Smithfield, and sing in your praises. I'm not doing that exactly. But, they have come out with a line called Pure Farmland. Anyways, Maple Leaf buying Light Life and Fieldos. There are a lot of corporations that are starting to turn what they offer in the marketplace because they also agree with consumers. They have got to shift. And then the third pillar of that stool is that investors, they woke up when Beyond Meat had an IPO in 2019.
I got in on that one.
Yes.
I did get in on that one. Yeah.
Me too.
It was a good choice.
Yeah. But you're still happy about that one. So, but they're awake now. They may or may not be mission aligned. We're not sure about that yet, but those dollars are coming in. So you saw $1.5 billion be invested in the first half of 2020. And that was almost as much as all as 2019. So you're seeing those investment dollars really double, and I think you'll see that quadruple as we go forward. You'd ask me about going forward. So right. I think you've got these three pillars. You've got the consumer on board, you've got corporations getting on board, and you've got investors on board. So you're just going to see exponential growth. This is just going to continue to spin.
Well, and obviously for somebody like yourself with plant-powered consulting, this is the perfect time for you to be in this industry. What are some other opportunities for people who are saying, okay, this is my lifestyle, I am vegan, but I want to make this more of my business model? What are what you would say are opportunities for people?
Well, tricky business there. I think first you have to kind of look inside yourself and say, do I want to be an entrepreneur? Because it's really not for everybody.
Well, let's assume that they are an entrepreneur.
Okay, so this is something that they want to do to themselves, because it's like Saturday, Sunday, it's 24/7. So, the meat supply industry is $1.4 trillion, and we're still, at this point, only 1% of that. So, there's huge amount for growth, room for growth if you're looking at things like bacon, steaks, ribs. I wouldn't hop into the burger business. Mm-hmm. Probably wouldn't do sausages either, but there's cold cuts. There's so many opportunities. Seafood is going to be a big one. I think that's an easy one for people to register. People sort of now have the memo, like cows put out a lot of greenhouse gases. Okay, better burger. I get the environmental connection, but everybody knows our oceans are sick. People can see that right away. So alternative seafood, things like lobster and scallops, shrimp, there are a couple options for shrimp already out there. But I think if I were getting into it today, I think I'd be focusing on other types of seafood, plant-based seafood.
Okay. And what about like nutritionists? What about health and fitness? What about authorship? All of that. Do you see any trends moving in the direction that would be a good choice for an entrepreneur to move in?
I see so many lifestyle coaches. I just see that a whole heck of a lot. I'd like to see more people get the actual degree of a dietitian so that they really go beyond just kind of lifestyle coaching. Right. But, you and I both know this, but I'm not sure everybody else does. Most doctors get about 4 hours of nutrition in medical school, and that's it. Right. So, and yet they're out there saying, go ahead and eat meat and dairy because you got to, get protein. They just have no idea. They don't even know the basic facts themselves. So I'd like to see more people really with the medical knowledge. So I think there's great room for dietitians. I think they're going to take on a bigger role. I think, yes, there's always, still vegans are only 3% of society, and vegetarians, depending on the study, are 6 to 11%. So the majority of growth is coming from the meat eaters. So those people are going to need a lot of help switching over and finding the answers and understanding the nutrition. And again, they can't go to their doctor. So I do think there's a lot of room for nutritionists, lifestyle coaching, etc. I think you're going to see the rest of it change. So now that we are seeing basically 1/3 of those who eat are flexitarian in some way. So flexitarian, somebody's working out the meat, working in more of the vegetables. Mm-hmm. Once you realize, oh gosh, it's my food and what my food does to the environment and animals and my health, you start to say, well, what about my leather? Well, what about my clothes? Well, so I think you're going to see a lot more cruelty-free beauty products, cruelty-free clothing. Excellent. And there's a big swath of room to grow in clothing.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because I've been plant-based vegan. I first started plant-based. I didn't want to be a crazy vegan, and now I'm a crazy vegan. And, at first it was like, oh, they're too radical. And I did it for health reasons, although I've been doing animal rescue for years. And one day it
great.
kind of hit me of like, oh my gosh, you're compassionate to animals, rescuing them. And then on the other hand, you're eating them. It makes no sense. And the further I go into this, the more I see that the layers are being stripped away, where now I look at, is it cruelty-free makeup? Right. And that term, I didn't even know what it meant a few months ago. I seriously did not know what it meant. And so now I'm looking at every choice I make. Is it something that I can be personally responsible for making the right choice? And now you mentioned millennials and Gen Zs, Gen Xers, and we've got the baby boomers. What generation would you say, from your studies and your professional perspective, is the most aware about the whole vegan plant-based movement and how compassionate it is?
Well, the health is driven by the older folks, and the environment and animal welfare is millennials and Gen Z all day long.
Okay.
So they aren't so affected by their health, 22, 25, 20, they're not so driven by that, but they're getting the planet, they inherit it, and they know what a mess they have on their hands. So this is another interesting thing I think you're going to see. They have no patience for any brand, and I'll extend that to any company that isn't mission aligned, from the CEO right down to the customer service rep on the phone. So they don't want just the slogan or, it has to be more than good for animals and the planet. It also has to be, everyone who works there has to be mission aligned. So they're really, when they buy a product, they want the whole company to really be authentic from the top to the bottom. So I think there's that push from the younger consumers that, like, we have our eye on you, and we're vigilant.
Right. And then we have a whole new generation coming up. I don't even know what you would call them, and you probably know what the term would be, but let's say the 12-year-old and under.
Yes.
What generation is that?
Isn't that Gen Z? Do I have that wrong, people?
I don't know. But what I see that shocks me is the amount of obesity, the amount of diabetes, the amount of heart disease, stroke. I mean, children are getting adult diseases. And what's with the pandemic going on and the economy, a lot of parents, they don't know anything about nutrition. So from your perspective, with companies that need to reach out to these people, what can they do in their marketing, in their branding, in their visibility to reach more of the general public to help them make better choices?
Yeah, I love that you say that. And again, as we talk about mission-aligned companies, we're seeing companies really come out with information about childhood obesity, et cetera, because they want to, either they have a foundation arm or something, but they're trying to take on these societal issues that we have. And, again, COVID being this ultimate accelerant, you see how much more at risk you are. One sees how much more at risk one is when they're in bad shape. So it's not just boosting your immune system, but it's getting down lifestyle diseases like heart disease and diabetes and high blood pressure, et cetera. So obesity. So you're seeing companies do some of that, but also I think this is the heyday for meal delivery programs. So they can say to the single mother of 3 or the, family that has 2 kids, but they're working at home and the kids aren't going to school and they're supposed to be schooling kids while they're also working 2 jobs in the same house where they're all going to kill each other. Okay, we can take cooking off the plate if you want that. Some people find it very relaxing, like I do, to cook. I do an awful amount of cooking. I work with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I love them. So, it really soothes my nerves to be chopping vegetables. But for people who don't have time and they don't have time to shop, you can have meal delivery right to your door, and that's really helping. There's so many healthy meal delivery programs now, some of them coming with coaching. So you don't have to get the lifestyle coach and then figure it out by yourself. You can get the meal delivery program that comes with the hour-long call every day from the coach about what you're eating, why it's good for you, and what to keep stocking in your fridge, et cetera. Yeah, it's really great. Shout out to Plantable, who does that. They're so wonderful.
Okay, we will do that shout out. We'll put that in the show notes too. And I'm curious, when you were with the Kellogg Company, did you ever feel like your efforts were really making a difference in their bottom line, and then you said, this just doesn't fit anymore? Did you reach that point, or how did you go from working for a company like Kellogg to now you're so aligned with the work that you do?
Yes. Well, I think when I was working for Kellogg, I was searching for that mission. So first of all,
Okay.
you have to like know it yourself, right? You have to find it yourself. And then I just was never going to be able to play company politics. And it was really obvious to me early on that as many deals were done on the golf course and at the bar drinking later, I just was never going to be invited to those parties. And if you weren't really good at politics, you weren't going to be there for the long haul in any kind of meaningful way. So it was so fun to work at that company, which is really a marketing company. You know, they base their entire company on, 50% of all cereals are marketing, if not more, marketing dollars spent, if not more. So I was in brand marketing, so brand management, brand marketing. It was so wonderful to work with manufacturing and work with the promotions and work with the package design folks, and then run the ads. Special K had such wonderful ads, and do all the focus groups, and then run the numbers. We were responsible for the P&L and the whole thing. So it was great to really basically be running your own company. It was me and one other person, and we ran Special K, and it was like running your own, gazillion-dollar company. But I wasn't good at politics, so I was never going to be able to last there and make it really work from a career standpoint.
Interesting. And how did you come up with the idea for the Plant-Based Business Minute? Because I know that now we like things in bite-sized pieces, no pun intended, but the Business Minute, I love what you're doing with that, and I'm definitely going to put some links in the show notes, because I encourage people to watch it. In a very short period of time, you cover, 3 topics? And
yes,
it's like a wealth of knowledge in a minute or two. So how did you come up with that concept?
Well, I am very annoyed. Okay, so let me tell you, I've got 2 things going on. I've got plant-powered consulting, which I love doing. And the basis of plant-powered consulting is primarily marketing, media, and communications, strategy, and execution. But the more and more I grow as a plant-based expert in the field, people are coming to me with their brand and just saying, hey, do you want to be on retainer and just help me out when I need you? Opening your Rolodex, helping me understand the whole landscape, how it's shifting, helping me find investors. So I'm doing a lot of overall business strategy, as well as the marketing and brass tacks, if you will. Okay, so then in addition to that, which is really how I support myself, I do the Plant-Based Business Hour as just volunteer journalism. I just want the information out there. I want these long form interviews with CEOs and entrepreneurs and innovators and scientists and the research analysts. I really just want that information out there. Okay, those are long, and it's about an hour each thing. And in each interview, I would tag the New York Times, I would tag the Wall Street Journal, I would tag Barron's, Kiplinger's, and mainstream media isn't picking anything up. And I thought, well, this is really aggravating to me, because they just keep talking about Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods. And if you're going to get the whole world to switch to other options, they have to realize that there's more than Beyond Meat or Impossible. Otherwise, they're going to think, oh, it's this niche, funny thing I try once a week at a party. And that's not it. There's obviously a gazillion more options. So I decided I didn't have the consumer in mind as much as I had mainstream media in mind. I decided I would be the mainstream media correspondent that I see on CNN. I would be that person for vegan news, because there isn't a headline news vegan. And so I was like, well, then I guess I will make vegan headline news. And maybe one day CNN will have me on their show. But
I love it.
Until they don't, I break down the vegan news. 3 top headlines each week.
I got really irritated when I saw you do that, because I thought, why didn't I think of that? It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And I love it. So let me ask you, when you think of an ideal sweet spot type client that you just love working with, describe that person to me.
That person
type of company is
extremely dedicated. They're very open in their vision, but they're very targeted with their product. So they've already done the research. They really know that this product is wanted in the marketplace. They've done some testing, or I can help them with testing, but they've done enough research to know that this isn't just, I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall and I hope it sticks. They already have a sense that people want this, and they're very engaged with how to reach them. So they're very open to different marketing programs to engage their consumer. And then they're very open in long-term vision. So I like that they can see both the trees and the forest. They can go from short-term vision to long-term vision. And that's a skill that's so hard to home in on. But my favorite entrepreneur is somebody who can do that.
Excellent, excellent. And I want to remind people, this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. I'm talking with Elysabeth Alfano, and she is the owner, CEO, founder of Plant Powered Consulting. She's a rock star out in the plant-based vegan industry. And I'm curious, how do people get in touch with you? First of all, I want to make sure that we know how people can reach you.
Oh, thank you for that. So yes, everybody head to my website, ElysabethAlfano.com. That's spelled a little differently. So ElysabethAlfano.com. And you can reach me at ElysabethAlfano.com. And then of course I'm on the socials everywhere. LinkedIn's the best one for me really, but again, Elysabeth Alfano.
You do really well at LinkedIn for sure. And out of all the social media platforms, which one would you say is your sweet spot platform or your favorite?
LinkedIn.
And why is that?
Well, because I learned something on LinkedIn. And remember I said I was never good at playing company politics? Mm-hmm. I often feel that Facebook and Instagram are more about the showing than the doing. And LinkedIn is a lot about the doing. And I'm spending a lot of hours every week. Some of it's, the people are paying me, which is wonderful. But sometimes it's just a lot of volunteer work to get the news out. And I'm doing it because I want to see change in the world. So I'm about the doing and less about the fluff.
I love that. And that's why I started Plant-Based Eating for Health, because I really want to see some change. And the more I learn, the more committed I am, because it's shocking what's happening with a lot of people and that they're so unaware. And it's by no fault of their own. It just takes people like us to raise the level of awareness for them. Now, with the people that are really anxious to get into a vegan plant-based lifestyle, what would you recommend to them if they just want to do it personally and they want to do it for health and for the ethics to the animal, be a voice for the voiceless? What is your recommendation?
Shift your mindset.
Okay.
So get rid of, I'm going to be missing out on something, or, I'm going to have to upend my whole life, or all these sort of negative things that might trail around in your head. Forget that. This is your new lease on life. You're going to get energy back. You're going to get your youth back in a way. You're going to be able to, you might shed some pounds. Woohoo. You never know how it's going to go for you. So I certainly got those things when I did it. So just get rid of any sort of negative, like, now my life is like sad and I don't get these things that make me terribly ill and are super expensive. Just be glad and grateful that that's right. You're not going to have these things that are making you sick, and you're not going to be spending gobs of dollars on pills because you don't want to commit yourself to a life to pills. So this new life is just that, your new lease on life. And that it doesn't have to be in one day. I know people who've turned the ship around in one day, but most people don't. So, just kind of consider this new adventure on your life. And you can go to my website again, ElysabethAlfano.com/recipes. I love to cook. I've always loved to cook. So, and again, I said I do stuff for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. But of course, there's Kathleen you can go to. I know a bunch of lifestyle coaches. I help people with lifestyle stuff. So, reach out. There's a huge network. Reach out to folks. And again, I'm happy to help people there if they need it, but it's really not that hard. Guacamole, you love it. Hummus, you love it. Tomatoes and sauteed onions over pasta, you love it. Not to mention if you do want to go this way from time to time, there is some of the processed stuff. There's lentils and, there's so many options.
There are a lot of options. And I love what you said about, getting rid of the expensive medication in place of, let's get some healthy foods. And what I find interesting is when people say, oh, it's so expensive to eat that way. And it's like, no, not really. And they're probably thinking of the processed foods. Now, when you first started moving in this direction, what were some of the books that you read and who were some of the, if you will, influencers that you listened to?
Well, I love Dr. Greger. So I've interviewed him a bunch. I just love him. I love Dr. Barnard. I've interviewed him a bunch. He's wonderful. I love Dr. Scott Stoll. He's the founder of the Plantrition Project. I should say Dr. Barnard is the founder of Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and Dr. Greger is the founder of nutritionfacts.org. Just all so knowledgeable. Joel Kahn is just so fun. I've interviewed him as well. He's so fun. But really, Dr. Greger and Dr. Barnard, those are my two kind of go-to. And then every time I'm talking to a plant-based doctor, I learn so much. Dr. Kim Williams, who's head cardiologist at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. So, there's just so many plant-based doctors.
Absolutely. I'm going to be talking with Kim in about a week or two, having him on the show. And
he's so wonderful.
It's just amazing how accessible these influencers are. I mean, that's what has shocked me about this particular industry and this lifestyle is that they're like, I'm glad to share my information. And it's not like an ego trip or anything. That's what I so appreciate about it. And again, I want to remind people I'm talking with Elysabeth Alfano, and she is with Plant Powered Consulting. And we're going to put your website down below, all your contact information so people can reach out to you. And in your final thoughts for people, what can you say would be, for moving forward, one of the best things that they could do for themselves and their family in order to live a healthier lifestyle?
So everybody on your show probably says this, but get rid of meat and dairy, really today. And then if you need some processed foods, like Dr. Kim Williams always says this, these are transition foods. So if you need a little help with, Beyond Meat and Impossible, as you work your way into seasoning your own tempeh with, oh, by the way, soy sauce, paprika, and cumin makes a great base for seasoning anything so you can taste it like meat. Because what the heck, meat's just all about the spices. So, who wants that saturated fat? Get rid of that. Just spice up your other stuff so it tastes like meat and then add it to your pasta. Okay. So, if you aren't quite there yet to seasoning your own tempeh, fair enough. You got Beyond Meat. You got this. Ain't no big deal. So, stop thinking of it as this huge, overhaul of your whole life. Get into it as fast as you can, but work out that meat and work out that dairy.
I love that. And it's just the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do.
So when I was 5, I couldn't eat meat, and I couldn't have told you why. I certainly didn't know anything about factory farms, but I couldn't chew it. And I just knew that something was wrong, did not sit right with me. My folks, whom I love, they love me, I love them back, there's no problem. Well, they punished me pretty severely when I said I couldn't eat meat. And so they said, you have to stay at the table and you're going to be by yourself and we're all leaving. So they did that, and I would be alone for 2 or 3 hours at a time. And I wasn't allowed to leave the table because they thought I was being capricious. So then I started taking the meat and I would hide it in my pants pockets and under the table. Under the garbage can. I'd dig out the garbage can. I'd put the meat underneath. Well, then they caught me lying. Of course, I'm watching TV and I couldn't participate on all this stuff. So here I am, fast forward to an adult. I think to myself, this is what people do. Being an adult means that you do the wrong thing, even though you know it's wrong, and you do it anyway, because now I knew about factory farms. And that's what it means to be an adult. So this never sat well with me. Finally, my nephew comes back from the University of Oregon. And I'm way into my 40s at this point. Comes back. He's an athlete, University of Oregon. Comes back for Thanksgiving. And he's like, oh, yeah, coach told me if I want to play for the team, no meat, no dairy. And I was like, you got a professional to give you permission? I'd been waiting for permission since I was 5. It was so heavily ingrained in me that this is just what you do. So I went vegan that day. And I'll tell you, when I went vegan, just for all these people who are trying to work their way into being vegan, I lost some weight. Woohoo! I got more energy. Now, I already have a lot of energy, but believe it or not, I got more. But what I didn't realize is that as an adult, I was carrying around this heavy weight because I was doing something that didn't sit right with how I wanted to live in the world. So I'll just tell you that even though you probably don't think about it at all as somebody who eats meat, and you really don't think about it as dairy, because I know that people don't have the understanding of what really happens in dairy farms, and it's god awful. But I know people know with meat, and you don't think you're carrying around any baggage. But I'm telling you, when you get rid of that baggage of not contributing to factory farms, because no one except a felon really signs up for that voluntarily.
Right.
You ask anyone, any political party, left, right, in the middle, they all say oh gosh, no, I don't agree with factory farms. But then we all have to do it anyway. You get rid of that, and it is a huge burden lifted.
I love that story, and I have to share that when I was about 6 months into the whole plant-based journey, I was at the grocery store and I was walking by the meat department. I wasn't going to the meat department, walking by, and I literally stopped and I had tears fill my eyes and I could feel the pain and I had a visceral response. I was just like, oh, and it, like even now as I'm sharing that, I'm getting this feeling of just such sorrow from the animals, and they're begging us to please stop. They are begging us. And when people say, I don't want to watch the films, I don't want to know because then I'll give up meat. Well, that's the idea.
That's the gig.
Yeah, that is the gig right there. So, well, thank you for sharing that story. It's been amazing. This has been a great conversation. I'd love to have you back and dig deeper into the marketing, the branding, the lifestyle, the ethics, and being a voice for the voiceless. So, Elysabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll come back anytime. I had a blast.
Thank you.
Thank you for your commitment to an ethical life through plant-based food choices. The kind of choices that are kind to your body, the environment, and most of all, animals. Be sure to leave a review and rating of the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show.